In 1973, a teenager was kidnapped off a street in Rome. His crime? Being the grandson of the richest man alive. That single act of getting rich, and being known for it, nearly destroyed his entire family. Today you'll learn why silence became their survival strategy. Stick around because by the end you'll understand the one rule self-made millionaires almost never break, and why breaking it can cost you everything. Let's go back further. Long before bank vaults existed, wealth itself was dangerous to display. In ancient Rome, only certain classes were even allowed to wear purple. These were called sumptuary laws, rules that controlled who could show off money. Break them, and you could be fined. Or worse. Why control something as simple as clothing color? Because visible wealth has always meant one thing: a target on your back. Fast forward to medieval Europe. Moneylenders kept their gold buried, hidden behind false walls, because rumors of riches brought robbers, and sometimes angry mobs. Even kings understood this. Many monarchs kept their true treasury numbers secret from their own court. Knowledge of wealth was treated like a weapon. But here's the twist. Centuries later, America would build an entire era around the opposite idea, showing off everything. And it backfired in ways nobody expected. Welcome to the Gilded Age. Late 1800s America. Railroad tycoons and steel barons built mansions bigger than European palaces. And they wanted everyone to know it. Names like Carnegie, Rockefeller, Vanderbilt. Their fortunes were public spectacle. Newspapers printed their net worth like sports scores. And the public response wasn't admiration. It was rage. Strikes. Riots. Even assassination attempts against the wealthiest men in the country. John D. Rockefeller, the richest man in modern history, started hiring personal bodyguards. He had reason to. Threats arrived by mail almost weekly. So the people who once wanted everyone to see their riches slowly learned the opposite lesson. Visibility wasn't power. It was exposure. Which brings us back to that kidnapping in Rome. The boy's name was John Paul Getty III, grandson of oil billionaire J. Paul Getty. Kidnappers demanded millions for his release. His grandfather, at the time the richest private citizen on earth, initially refused to pay. Why would a man worth billions hesitate to pay a ransom? Because he feared if he paid once, every grandchild would become a target forever. The kidnappers eventually mailed a piece of the boy's ear to a newspaper. Only then was a ransom finally negotiated and paid. That story spread through wealthy families worldwide and changed something fundamental. The wealthy stopped flaunting and started disappearing. But is kidnapping really the main reason today's rich stay quiet? Not exactly. The bigger danger turned out to be something far less dramatic and far more common. Let's talk about lottery winners, because their stories reveal the everyday version of this danger, the one that has nothing to do with criminals. Studies have tracked lottery winners for years. A striking number end up broke within a handful of years of winning, sometimes worse off than before. One huge reason: the moment people knew, family members reappeared, old friends called, strangers asked for loans that were never repaid. Researchers call this the social tax on visible wealth. The more people know what you have, the more pressure builds to give it away. It isn't just strangers either. Sudden wealth has quietly destroyed marriages, split up siblings, and ended decades-long friendships over money disagreements. So silence isn't paranoia. For many newly wealthy people, it's the only thing standing between them and total chaos. Now let's look at someone who built one of the largest fortunes on the planet, and somehow stayed almost invisible while doing it. Ingvar Kamprad founded IKEA. By many estimates, one of the richest people in modern history. He drove an old Volvo for decades. He reportedly shopped at discount markets, flew economy class, and avoided flashy displays of his fortune his entire life. But here's the twist. This wasn't just thriftiness. Camprad believed visible frugality protected both his business and his family from outside pressure. Think about what visible wealth invites in a competitive industry. Suppliers raise prices. Competitors study your every move. Staying quiet kept his advantage hidden. Now compare that to a very different kind of secrecy. One built entirely around generosity instead of fear. Chuck Feeney co-founded duty-free shopping and quietly became a billionaire. For decades, almost nobody outside his closest circle knew. Why hide it? Because Feeney was secretly giving almost his entire fortune away. Funding hospitals, universities, public health programs around the world. He required many of his donations stay anonymous. He believed credit and attention would only complicate the good the money was meant to do. By the time he passed away, he had given away nearly $8 billion and chose to live the rest of his life in a rented apartment. Two completely different men. Two completely different reasons for staying silent. But the same conclusion. Wealth and visibility don't have to travel together. Now let's get practical. What actually happens psychologically the moment someone learns how much money you have? Psychologists call it social comparison. Your number instantly becomes a measuring stick. Even for people who claim money doesn't matter to them. That comparison breeds quiet resentment. Even among people who love you. It changes how they treat you without either of you fully realizing it. It also changes negotiations. Mechanics. Contractors. Even friends planning a group trip. Prices and expectations quietly shift once your number is known. Researchers have a name for this too. The wealth tax nobody voted for. Higher prices. Higher expectations. All because people simply knew. So how do today's wealthy actually stay quiet? It starts with something as simple as the way they dress and what they drive. This trend even has a modern name. Stealth wealth. No visible logos. No flashy watches. Just quiet quality that only insiders would recognize. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest investors in history, still lives in the same modest house he bought back in 1958. He's openly said that house gave him everything he needed. A modest life kept attention away from his fortune and on his work instead. Beyond appearance, legal structures matter too. Many wealthy individuals hold property and investments through trusts or anonymous holding companies. Public property records in many places list a company name instead of a person. That single layer keeps strangers from ever finding an address. Financial advisors often recommend this for an unsettling reason. Visible wealth has historically made families more likely targets for fraud, lawsuits, and theft. Quick question for you before we keep going. If you suddenly became wealthy tomorrow, would you tell your closest friends? Or stay completely silent? Let me know in the comments. Let's go even deeper into history. Because this idea of hidden wealth isn't new at all. It stretches back to ancient trade routes. Merchants traveling the Silk Road deliberately dressed like common travelers, carrying jewels and silver sewn into the lining of plain clothing. Bandits along these routes specifically targeted travelers who looked wealthy, so looking poor became one of the earliest forms of financial protection. Medieval Jewish moneylenders in parts of Europe faced an even darker reality. Visible wealth sometimes triggered violent persecution from local authorities. Wealth had to be hidden, recorded in coded ledgers, sometimes buried entirely. Survival depended on discretion far more than profit. Even pirates, yes, pirates, buried their treasure for the exact same reason. A known fortune was a fortune someone else would come looking for. So whether it's a Silk Road merchant or a modern tech founder, the instinct to hide wealth has survived almost unchanged for thousands of years. But here's a question worth asking. Is this secrecy actually healthy? Or does it just trade one set of problems for another? Psychologists who study wealthy families point out a real downside. Constant secrecy can quietly create isolation, even loneliness, inside otherwise loving families. Children raised never knowing their family's true financial picture sometimes struggle later, either overspending wildly or living in needless, constant fear of running out. So the wealthiest families today don't usually choose between total secrecy and total openness. They choose something more careful. Selective trust. That means telling a spouse, maybe one trusted advisor, occasionally close children once they're older, but almost never extended family or casual friends. Financial planners often call this the circle of trust strategy. Smaller circles, fewer leaks, fewer expectations placed on the people who actually earn the wealth. There's also a generational pattern worth noticing. Old money families, the ones with fortunes spanning a century or more, are often the quietest of all. Many old money families avoid press entirely. No social media. No interviews. Their names rarely appear in headlines at all. Compare that to newly wealthy individuals, lottery winners, sudden startup founders, who often haven't yet learned these unwritten rules of discretion. And that gap in experience explains a strange statistic. New wealth disappears far faster, statistically, than wealth passed down through generations. Old money learned silence through generations of hard lessons. New money often learns it the hard way, all at once. Let's bring this back to the Getty family one more time, because their story didn't end with that ransom payment. After the kidnapping, the Getty family dramatically increased their privacy, hired full security teams, and drastically reduced public appearances for decades. It's a sobering lesson, but a clear one. The price of visible wealth isn't always measured in dollars. Sometimes it's measured in safety itself. Now let's talk about something most people never consider. Social media. The single biggest threat to financial privacy in modern history. A single vacation photo can reveal a location, a purchase, even a daily routine, to thousands of strangers instantly. Security experts have linked social media posts to real burglaries. Thieves simply waited until vacation photos confirmed nobody was home. That's why many wealthy families today follow a simple, almost old-fashioned rule. Never post in real time. Only after you've already left. Some families go even further, hiring digital privacy consultants whose entire job is scrubbing personal financial details off the internet. It might sound extreme, but for families managing significant wealth, digital footprints have become just as dangerous as a loose tongue at a dinner party. Let's circle back to something simpler though, because not everyone watching this is managing millions. Most of us are just trying to build steady savings. And the truth is, this lesson still applies on a smaller scale. Even a modest raise or a paid-off house can change how people treat you. Financial therapists often recommend a simple boundary for everyday people too. Keep specific numbers private, even with close friends and coworkers. It's not about being secretive or cold. It's about protecting your own peace. From comparison, from unsolicited advice, and from quiet resentment you never asked for. Even financial advisors recommend this exact phrase when people ask about your money. I'd rather not get into specific numbers. Simple, polite, final. It works because most people respect a calm, confident boundary far more than they respect an awkward, defensive overshare. Let's bring everything together now. Because every era we covered points to the exact same conclusion. Quietly. Roman sumptuary laws. Medieval moneylenders behind false walls. Gilded Age tycoons hiring bodyguards. Lottery winners losing everything within years. The Getty kidnapping. Camprad's old Volvo. Chuck Feeney's secret billions. Buffett's same modest house for over 60 years. Every single story, across thousands of years, lands on the same quiet truth. Visibility invites pressure, and pressure rarely arrives alone. But here's the twist we promised back at the very beginning. Silence was never really about hiding shame. It was always about protecting what matters. Protecting relationships from quiet resentment. Protecting families from sudden danger. Protecting your own peace of mind from constant comparison. That's why even today, with more transparency than ever before in human history, the wealthiest people on earth still choose to stay remarkably quiet. It isn't fear driving most of them anymore. It's wisdom, earned across centuries of mistakes other people were forced to learn the hard way. So if you ever find yourself suddenly building real wealth, remember the Romans. Remember the merchants. Remember that boy in Rome. You don't need a vault, or bodyguards, or buried treasure. You just need one simple habit most successful people already practice quietly. Build your wealth loudly if you want. Work hard. Take pride in your progress. But talk about the actual numbers as little as possible. Because the data is strikingly consistent. The quieter people stayed about their wealth, the longer that wealth tended to actually last. From ancient Rome to a quiet billionaire's rented apartment, the lesson never really changed. It just kept finding new ways to repeat itself. So now I'll turn it back to you. Knowing everything we just covered, would you have paid that ransom immediately? Or hesitated like Getty did? There's no perfect answer. Every family, every fortune, every era has faced this same impossible balance between safety and connection. But one thing history makes painfully clear: the people who lasted, who kept their families intact, almost always chose quiet over attention. So tell me honestly, would you stay silent about getting rich? Or would the temptation be too strong? Let me know below. And if this pulled back the curtain for you, stick around for the next one.